You know, some books are short. You could probably read this one in a single afternoon, but don't let that fool you. What's inside is one of the most powerful stories about human endurance ever put to paper. We're talking, of course, about Ernest Hemingway's 1952 masterpiece, The Old Man and the Sea. All right, so let's dive in. This entire story really hinges on one single legendary struggle. And at the center of it all, we've got an old Cuban fisherman named Santiago. And believe me, he is about to face the test of a lifetime. So picture this, 84 days. For 84 straight days, Santiago has sailed out and come back with absolutely nothing. In his village, they've even got a word for that kind of bad luck, salao. It means he's the worst kind of unlucky. Everyone thinks he's washed up, just a relic of the past. But here's the thing. This story, it isn't really about those 84 days of failure. Nope. It's all about what happens on day 85, the one day that changes everything. Okay, so this is where the real action begins, the battle on the sea. Santiago he's determined to break this awful streak. So he sails out way, way farther than he has ever gone before, all by himself, out into the deep, unknown waters of the Gulf Stream. And then it happens. Something takes his bait. But you have to understand, this is not just any fish. It's a massive marlin. I mean, this thing is literally bigger than his boat. And the second it's hooked, the real test of his life begins. And look, this is no quick fight. We're talking about a 3-day ordeal. For 2 nights and 3 days, this giant fish is just dragging him and his tiny boat farther and farther out to sea. He's getting cut up, he's beyond exhausted, he's dehydrated, but his will, it just doesn't break. And finally, on that 3rd day, he does it. He conquers the great fish. But you know how it is, right? Victory on the open sea can be pretty temporary. He lashes the marlin to the side of his boat and starts the long, hard journey home. But all that blood in the water, well, it's like a dinner bell for a new and way more relentless enemy. So it's an incredible fishing tale for sure. But if you think that's all this is, you're missing the best part. See, Hemingway is playing a much deeper game here. He's woven a ton of rich symbolism into this really simple story. Let's break it down. The sea? That's not just the ocean. It's basically life itself. Vast, beautiful, but also totally indifferent and cruel. And the marlin, that giant fish, that's the noble opponent, the ultimate goal that we all strive for. And the sharks? Well, they're all the destructive forces in the world that just mindlessly tear down our greatest achievements. And this whole thing is a brilliant example of Hemingway's famous writing style, what he called the iceberg theory. The idea is that the simple story you read on the page, that's just the tip of the iceberg, maybe 1/8 of it. The real weight, the emotion, the philosophy, that's all in the 7/8 hidden right below the surface. Right. The undefeated man. Because that hidden depth we're talking about, nowhere is it more obvious than in the man himself. So let's look at Santiago and how he embodies this central theme of persevering, even in the face of absolute loss. I mean, Santiago is just such an incredible character. He's deeply proud, but at the same time, he's humble, he knows his place in the world. And yeah, his body is absolutely wrecked by this ordeal, but his spirit is completely unbroken. He is the very definition of quiet heroism. His dignity doesn't come from winning the prize. It comes from his simple refusal to give up. Because, despite everything, the sharks devour his prize. He fights them until his harpoon is gone, until his knife blade breaks. When he finally stumbles back to shore, all he has left of that magnificent marlin is its giant skeleton. On the surface, it looks like he lost everything. But did he? And that brings us to the heart of the novel, maybe the most famous line he ever wrote. A man can be destroyed, but not defeated. Think about that. Santiago may have been physically destroyed, his prize stripped away from him, but his spirit, it was never, ever defeated. He proved to himself what he was made of. He won the battle that really mattered, the one inside himself. So, why are we still talking about this short book over 70 years later? Why does this simple story about an old fisherman still hit so hard? Well, it's because its legacy is just as massive as the marlin he fought. For starters, this little book was a huge reason Hemingway won the Nobel Prize for Literature. It's a profound meditation on struggle and finding meaning. It takes one man's lonely fight and makes it feel universal, like it's our fight too. It is the ultimate example of his iceberg style, a total masterclass in minimalist writing that packs a huge emotional punch. And that really leaves us with one final, personal question. Santiago's struggle is our struggle. We all have a marlin we're chasing, some great noble ideal we're fighting for, and we all have sharks that try to tear it all down. So the question the book really leaves us with is this: what is your marlin, and how will you fight for it?